Good day and welcome back to Horsemanship 101 again. Today I want to talk about abused horses because it's something that comes up a lot where people will say, well, how do I deal with this or that because my horse was abused? And well, a lot of times people just make assumptions that without knowing the history of the horse that they just assume it was abused because they're having a problem with certain things. And that's not always true. But I have two here that I'm going to use as examples that were in fact abused. Well, we don't know, like this one here, we kind of know what she's been through. She's got a big cut in her tongue. Apparently when she was purchased at the auction, the corners of her mouth were cut. She was properly scared of humans, didn't like to be caught or touched, very spooky, jumpy when I got her. As you can see, that is not the case. Not anymore. And then there was this one over here. Now, we don't know a whole lot about her history, but it was very clear that she was not comfortable with humans, didn't like to be caught, didn't want to be touched at all. Actually, I don't know if her abuse was very bad, but it certainly had a profound effect on her. She was right properly scared of humans, wanted nothing to do with people when I first got her. And now, well, she's just the sweetest little horse on the planet. Very affectionate, very gentle, absolute little doll. She has no problem with me at all, and she will quite often come to me to get attention and gently touch me with her head. And although some people don't like that, think it's bad having a horse in their personal space. As I've said in other videos, to me it's much more how they behave when they're in your space. And she's always very gentle, very respectful, everything else. But anyhow, back to the subject of abused horses, because like I said, we got two of them here. Both were given to me because of the state they were in. And a lot of people don't seem to realize that when, they see these horses. Oh, God, she's dirty today. Yeah. Dirty horse is a happy horse, okay? She likes to roll in the mud and get dirty, apparently. And on a gray, it really shows up. I think my next horse is going to be a little darker color. Anyhow, but back to the abused horses. A lot of people assume because they're having problems with their horses, it was abused. That's not always the case. However, a lot of people that get a horse that they know has been abused or neglected or something like that. You see, this is how much this horse likes me now. She comes to me, I didn't even ask her to. And she's not being pushy or anything. She's not in my face, She's a nice little horse. But I know enough about these two to know that they were in fact abused. Now, one of the things that people frequently ask, clinicians and trainers and such is, how do I deal with an abused horse? And the answer is almost always, and correctly, the same as any other horse. Now, you got to take in, this is the part I add to that, is I believe you have to take into consideration some of the more considerable fears that they have that, try not to push their buttons too much or anything. You have to always consider, like, for example, this one, because of the severity of her condition when I got her, she's never going to be 100% normal horse, if there is any such a thing. She's always got her little fears that, she'll have little reactions to certain things, and then she stops and thinks about it and goes, oh yeah, that's right, I don't have to be worried about it. But she spent so many years of her life scared that that's kind of her go-to thing. It's just automatic. It's programmed into her so well for so many years that, because I didn't even get her until she was, I think, 13 years old, something like that, and she's in her 20s now. I don't think that she's ever going to fully recover. She's always going to have her little skeletons in her closet, but for the most part, this is where I want to go with this, saying that, oh, I'm having problems with my horse because it was abused, you're making excuses. You're either making excuses for the horse or your inability to work with the horse, because abused horses, the problems might be a little more severe than with a horse that has not been abused. But the fact is, all horses have fear issues. And you have to deal with them exactly the same way. Now, whether it's this one, that one, or that one, if they have an issue with something, I'm going to deal with it more or less the same way. I always take into account the difference in their personalities, obviously, but, just because they're abused, it doesn't mean that I'm going to treat them, any differently, and I'm not going to cut them a whole lot of slack. I'm not going to allow certain behaviors just because, oh, the poor thing was abused. No. my expectation is the horse is going to behave a certain way. And that's, whether it's abused or not, the expectations are the same. And these two horses, as far as I know, that one has, I think she may have had a short period in her life that was maybe less than ideal, but she was never really abused. But both of these horses are capable of doing pretty much exactly the same things. They've learned all the same tasks, even though the abused one, I've had her far less time than that one. And yet this one has learned everything that one knows. As you can see, she was really spooky, hard to catch, all kinds of things when I got her. Very nervous, worried horse. But I just treated her like any other nervous, worried horse. I didn't go, oh, but she's been abused. That doesn't really matter, because you still have to deal with the problems in the same way. Just like that one, as extreme as she was when I got her, I still basically dealt with her pretty much the same as I would with any other horse. In her case, I maybe went a little bit slower with her, tried not to put pressure on her, make her freak out, because even to this day, if you put too much pressure on her, she'll get nervous and worried about things. But, that's just, that's her personality partly, and partly it was because of the fact that she stayed scared of humans for so long that it got rather deeply ingrained into her. So on the subject of abused horses, is they have all the same potential as any other horses. Like I said, both that one and that one were given to me as abused horses that other people couldn't do anything with. That one actually at one point in her life was adopted out on a contract saying that she was never ever to be ridden, companion horse only, because she was dangerous. Well, I've ridden her. Actually, a 12-year-old beginner has even ridden her now. So just because a horse was abused, that's not an excuse. All horses have to learn right from day one, and some horses, if they grow up with lots of human contact and people that generally treat them pretty good, they learn from a very, very young age not to be afraid of a lot of things, that they don't have to fear humans and mistreatment. The ones that have experienced that kind of stuff, we got to teach them that it's okay to be with us. It's like this one and that one. They both had to learn that it was okay to hang out with me and do whatever I asked them to do, because I'm not going to make them do anything that's going to hurt them or be scary. There's a few things that we do that kind of pushed the boundaries a little. You could see the horse was getting a little concerned about it, but, we kind of got to watch that stuff all the time. And, it doesn't matter whether it's an abused horse or not. You got to watch, you don't, cross that line. I did a video on that one before. But, fact is, an abused horse is not an excuse for poor behavior or lack of progress in your training. You simply have to address all the problems that they have exactly the same way you would with a horse that has not been abused. And in fact, sometimes the abused horses, just because of their personality and nature, they're actually easier to work with than the ones that haven't been. Because I've had several horses that were abused and a few that weren't. And honestly, one of the ones that I had, he was properly scared of humans, misrepresented when he was sold, and a whole lot of things. He turned out to be one of the best horses I'd ever worked with. He was so incredibly willing and smart and everything else. So, dealing with an abused horse is really no different than dealing with any other horse. They all have to learn the same things, the same ways. You just have to, initially, have a little consideration for the fact that, they are a little bit worried about things, a little more so than, some horses. But again, it's still stuff that they all have to learn anyhow. All horses naturally have fears. That's how they live and survive. It's part of their instincts. And they just have to learn that they don't need to be afraid of things all the time. That as long as they're with you, it's all okay. So, abused horses, don't make excuses for them. Don't make excuses for your inability to work with them. Work with them pretty much the same as you would with any other horse, okay? Have a good day.